Tonight on CFTK-TV News, BC is waiting to learn the advanced polling results. Residents may have to deal with some seriously bad weather on Election Day, and Pierre Poilievre is under pressure to get security clearance.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. At Terrace's Skeena Mall next Friday, the local RCMP are set to hold an event meant to help families get prepared if they ever need to quickly access the information of their young children. Between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., the RCMP will be offering child identification kits, which are items given to families that can be used to store information like their kid's blood type, their fingerprints, a hair sample, even potentially a photo if the need arises. Once these kits are filled out with all the possible information, parents or authorities have a way to quickly find crucial information about their kids in urgent time situations. The kits are free and they can either be picked up for later use or be filled out right then and there. British Columbia is now awaiting its provincial election results after the closure of advanced ballots. CFTK's Damian Smith has an upcoming preview for this tight race.
We are now a mere double digits in hours away from the final votes being tallied in the BC provincial election. And according to BC Elections, the province set record highs on the advanced voting day on Wednesday with just about 223,000 votes. Headlined by the NDP's David Eby, Conservatives' John Rustad, and Green Party Sonia Furstenau. According to Thursday night reports, just 48 hours before the election cutoff, it remains a tight race between Eby and Rustad. And representing the Northwest for the NDP includes Nathan Cullen for Bulkley Valley and Stikine, Sarah Zimmerman for Skeena, and Tamara Davidson for the North Coast and Haida Gwaii. In their campaign, the NDP is looking to continue investing in healthcare, infrastructure, and according to Zimmerman, the NDP has done their job at keeping the economy afloat.
And I think that it's a bit of a misnomer that the economy isn't doing well here. Last year, we've seen some of the strongest private sector job growth in Canada, in British Columbia.
The Conservatives, represented by Sharon Hartwell in the Bulkley Valley, Claire Rattay for Skeena, and Chris Sankey for the North Coast and Haida Gwaii, look to drive investment into small businesses, reducing payroll tax, and creating a smaller government.
It's not about looking at ways to cut back on services. It's about finding ways to drive more investment, to allow the private sector to do what it does best, to encourage investment specifically in areas like ours.
And finally, for the Christian Heritage Party, Rod Taylor in the Bulkley Valley and Erwin Jeffrey in Skeena are looking to promote pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom.
The CHP, or the Christian Heritage Party, advocates revoking Bill 36. Doctors and nurses who were first lauded as frontline heroes, but subsequently fired for not submitting to an experimental gene therapy, need to be hired and compensated.
Now, BC citizens have until 4 p.m. on Saturday until all the tallies will be finished. From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
The final hours of the 2024 BC election campaign wound down, and the major parties courted voters in very different ways. The sprint to the finish line came as a record number of British Columbians have cast advanced ballots. Penny Daflos has more on those numbers.
David Eby is a veteran campaigner.
Nice to meet you.
And knows how important it is to connect with voters one handshake, one picture at a time. As he works to reinforce his key messages around housing and affordability,
our plan is designed to help you and your family get ahead.
The NDP leader made his biggest appearance of the day at the same location as his very first press conference as premier 23 months ago, focused on public safety.
These aren't problems that we're going to solve overnight, but they are problems where we're going to show progress.
Public safety is widely seen as a weakness for his party, despite multiple strategies deployed in the last 2 years.
Have you seen the changes that you told taxpayers would be in the works at this point?
In terms of repeat violent offenders, we pushed Ottawa to change their bail rules to keep repeat violent offenders behind bars. We're still seeing issues in British Columbia. It drives me crazy. And I'm pushing Ottawa still to review what's going on to make sure that all the changes that can be made have been made to make sure that violent offenders are staying in jail where they belong.
Eby doesn't hesitate to discuss these thorny issues on the campaign trail. He's now counting on British Columbians recognizing the housing crisis, healthcare crunch, and public safety complexities are not unique to our province, and that his methodical long-term thinking and mixed results show enough progress to grant him another term as premier.
I do rely on the fact that British Columbians have that compassion, that concern, that they understand the complexity of the issues. And I strongly believe that we cannot solve this problem with a slogan or a Facebook post. We actually need strategies that are going to make a difference in communities. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
Coming up next, we have more information on a young Indigenous man that was killed. Welcome back. If you haven't cast your ballot in advance polls, be prepared for a storm quite literally on Election Day. Voters will want to have their umbrellas handy, with Environment Canada forecasting a whole lot of rain and strong winds for Saturday. Here's CTV's Reagan Hasagawa now.
Voters will have to contend with heavy rain and high winds on their way to the ballot box Saturday. An atmospheric river is expected to arrive around noon tomorrow and linger until Sunday.
It's been generally drier than average, but these precipitation rates might bring us really from anywhere to below average all the way up to above normal for the month of October, just in a 3-day time span.
Forecasters say the atmospheric river will bring prolonged heavy rain to BC's south coast. The first significant storm of the season is expected to dump 200 millimeters of rain in some areas. High winds with gusts up to 80 kilometers per hour are also expected. BC Hydro says that, combined with years of drought-like conditions, will create the perfect storm.
More than half of all power outages in British Columbia are due to adverse weather conditions. So that would be trees making contact with power lines.
When it comes to restoring power, BC Hydro says public safety is the #1 priority. But polling stations do have a direct line to crews should they go dark, so they will be next on the list. Reagan Hasagawa, CTV News, Vancouver.
Mounties have seized a book handwritten by serial killer Robert Pickton while he was in prison. It's about 200 pages and has been examined by police. And as CTV's Ben Milger reports, family members of some of Pickton's victims feel they should have a right to see the contents of that manuscript too.
Tanya Holick was just 23 when she went missing in 1996. Her DNA would eventually be found on the pig farm of notorious serial killer Robert Pickton, who was charged with her murder. The charge was eventually stayed, along with 20 others, after Crown secured convictions against Pickton for 6 murder charges.
There's just always no justice when it comes to her in this case.
CTV News has learned the RCMP have seized a book handwritten by Pickton while in prison. In an application for a search warrant, police say Pickton stated that there are other people involved and that he was the head honcho, but refused to elaborate further without a deal. The force had hoped the document might contain information that could link Pickton or someone else to the killings of women whose DNA was found on his property.
We had been led to believe by the RCMP that the investigation had concluded.
Pickton's manuscript is titled Pickton, in his own words, My Life as I Truly See It. In a statement to CTV News, BC RCMP say the writings have been thoroughly examined and contain no reference to any of the missing women or offenses for which Pickton was convicted.
If there's further investigation to be conducted, the RCMP should pursue it. In the meantime, my clients will pursue access to Robert Pickton's 200-page document.
Lorelei Williams has no interest in reading Pickton's manuscript herself, but thinks lawyers for the victims' families should be allowed to look at it to see if there's something of value to them that investigators didn't consider.
I definitely don't trust the police, especially when they're applying to destroy evidence.
The RCMP has applied to destroy thousands of pieces of evidence linked to the case. Pickton died in May after being attacked by another inmate at the Quebec prison where he was serving a life sentence. He is believed to have killed 49 women. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
We're learning more about a young Indigenous man who was killed last month while visiting his family in a remote Vancouver Island community. Patrick Charlson IV was just 24 years old. CTV's Adam McMillan looks at how he's being remembered and the calls for justice.
Family members are honoring a young man who was a provider, a hunter and fisher who kept their freezers full.
It's my pride and joy. I'd never have to worry about getting fish all year round because he was my provider.
His name was Patrick Charlson IV, but those who loved him called him He-Man.
I can't share why.
The 24-year-old Heshquit First Nation member still bringing people joy, even in death. He was killed on September 28th while visiting family in DT First Nation, west of Lake Cowichan.
I had a phone call, said, "E-Man has been shot." I said, "What?" I couldn't believe what I heard.
A young man, Darian Tate, is charged with first-degree murder.
Even behind bars, this person still has the ability to see family and loved ones. Nobody here ever has the chance to see or speak to He-Man ever again.
The family wants the first-degree murder charge to be upheld.
We know that oftentimes there are plea deals. We know that there are ways to shorten the sentences. The family is willing to sit through a trial if it means that the accused spends life behind bars.
Heshquit Nation's chief is urging anyone else who may have been involved in Charlson's death to come forward. She says counselors and cultural supports are on the ground in Heshquit, near Tofino, and DT.
It calls to not only just emergencies, but day-to-day life, that our rural and remote communities need to have equal access to things to live a healthy life and to feel safe.
Charlson is being remembered as fun and caring and as a teacher and protector of his siblings.
He was my pal, my right-hand man. He was always with me.
He-Man's never gonna be forgotten because of who he was and what he had in his heart.
Anna McMillan, CTV News.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is expecting a few showers with a wind warning still in effect. While the low sits at 8 degrees, the Terrace-Kitimat area will deal with a chance of showers at a low at 8 degrees too, and the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should see a chance of showers as well, while their low drops instead to -2 degrees. On the north coast, the upcoming week will actually see quite a few sunny days in between all the rain, and the high should shift from 9 to 7 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them will consist of a rainy day, a mixed sunny and cloudy day, some purely sunny days, then a cloudy day, while the high bounces from 9 to 3 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the next week or so will see a couple of mixed sunny and cloudy days, then a few sunny days, and end off with a cloudy day as the high jumps from 8 to 3 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is water pooling, bridge maintenance, other maintenance, utility work, construction work, and paving operations. Highway 37 has some bridge maintenance, water pooling, utility work, slippery sections, limited visibility, and roadside brushing. Highway 37A has road maintenance work, and there is some construction work on the Nisga'a Highway. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, the leader of Hamas was recently confirmed to be dead. Welcome back. Israel has confirmed that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is dead, killed during a heavy gun battle in Gaza. The secretive figure was chief architect of the October 7th massacre. The question now, is this a window of opportunity for a possible end to the fighting? CTV's Heather Wright reports.
For more than a year, Yahya Sinwar eluded Israeli forces, said to be hiding in Gaza's expansive tunnels and among the civilian population. After a firefight yesterday with Hamas forces in southern Gaza, Israeli soldiers retrieved a body that appeared to be Sinwar. Today, Israel confirmed his identity using dental records and fingerprints.
I think by killing this leader, it has now satisfied a lot of political imperatives. It will ameliorate some of the tactical stuff at the bottom end and allow the prime minister to have serious negotiations to get those 100+ hostages back.
Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to keep working to bring the remaining hostages home, something he has been criticized by hostage family members for not prioritizing.
This is a critical, time-sensitive development as it relates to the hostages. Their lives are in great danger now, more than ever.
And while Sinwar's death may indeed speed up negotiations for a truce, some in Gaza are less optimistic. They targeted many leaders before, Wasim Akras says. Someone will follow Sinwar and Hamas will continue. This won't stop the resistance, Tabet Amour says. Palestinians will continue to resist until we have self-determination.
Sinwar's death marks another tactical blow for Iran, with its two main proxies, Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon, now significantly degraded. And while no new ceasefire talks are planned, the U.S. Secretary of State did speak with Qatar's Prime Minister today, Qatar being the main mediator in those truce negotiations. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
A day after the Prime Minister revealed Conservative parliamentarians may have been compromised by foreign actors, pressure builds on Pierre Poilievre to get his security clearance from the New Democrats. CTV's Judy Trid reports.
It is ludicrous to me that someone who claims to want to be the Prime Minister of this country doesn't want to know of ongoing and serious threats that impact Canadians.
The NDP leader is criticizing his Conservative counterpart's decision to remain in the dark after the Prime Minister testified about the list of parliamentarians who may have engaged in foreign interference.
I have the names of a number of parliamentarians, former parliamentarians and/or candidates in the Conservative Party of Canada.
Pierre Poilievre says his chief of staff received classified briefings, and at no time was he informed that any current or former Conservative parliamentarian or candidate knowingly participated in foreign interference.
Mr. Poilievre doesn't have a security clearance.
This former head of Canada's intelligence agency says it's not protocol to provide that level of classified information to someone who can't discipline parliamentarians.
First of all, his chief of staff probably wouldn't have been provided that information because he had no way of using it. He had no need to know.
The risks to all parties were tabled in a June report. It revealed alleged foreign political meddling in Conservative leadership races by China and India, but details were redacted. The diplomatic crisis between India and Canada is deepening after the RCMP said they have evidence that the Indian government tried to silence Sikh Canadians with a campaign of violence involving extortion, home invasions, and shootings.
The only reason I think Pierre Poilievre is reluctant to take the information or get the information necessary is because he wants to protect his party above the country, and that is absolutely wrong.
After Singh viewed the unredacted details in the report, he said it wasn't necessary to take action against members of his own party. Both Singh and Poilievre have called for the public release of the names. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 7/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is up $22.50. Oil is down $1.40. Natural gas is down 9 cents. Aluminum is down $33. In Toronto, the TSX is up 132.06 points. The Venture Index is up 12.77. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 36.86. And NASDAQ is up 115.94. Still ahead, more details emerged about the death of ex-One Direction member Liam Payne. Welcome back. New details tonight on the sudden and shocking death of former One Direction singer Liam Payne. He was just 31 years old when he plunged to his death from a balcony in Buenos Aires. Now, as family, friends, and fans mourn, we're learning more about what happened the night that he died. Here's ABC's Trevor Alt.
Tonight, disturbing new details in the tragic death of One Direction member Liam Payne. Late yesterday, the 31-year-old pop star falling about 40 feet from his third-floor hotel room in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Paramedics pronouncing him dead at the scene. The security ministry now tells ABC News the singer jumped from the balcony, but authorities are still investigating if it was intentional. He is believed to have been alone in his hotel room, but reports say earlier the singer had been acting aggressively and erratically in the hotel lobby. A concerned hotel manager making this 911 call in Spanish requesting help.
Y necesitamos que nos envíen a alguien urgente para una habitación que tiene balcón y bueno, estamos un poco con temor de que haga algo que le ponga en riesgo su vida.
The prosecutor's office confirms these photos shared with ABC News were taken inside Payne's hotel room, appearing to show drugs and a smashed television. A preliminary autopsy report saying Payne's death was a result of multiple traumas and internal and external bleeding, adding Payne didn't seem to adopt a reflex posture to protect himself, and that he could have fallen while in a state of semi or total unconsciousness. Overnight, shocked fans gathering outside the Casa Sur Hotel. Payne had been in Argentina since the beginning of October when he attended the concert of former One Direction bandmate Niall Horan. Payne seen dancing in the crowd.
Morning, everybody.
He posted this video to Snapchat just hours before his death. Payne leaves behind a son. Tonight, his family saying, "We are heartbroken. Liam will forever live in our hearts, and we'll remember him for his kind, funny, and brave soul." And for the first time, his former bandmates speaking out in a joint statement, "We're completely devastated by the news of Liam's passing. We will miss him terribly."
The Transportation Safety Board of Canada says Canadian Pacific Railway has made changes to safety procedures after it launched an investigation into a train crash near Campbell Creek, BC. It says that in December 2022, a supervisor was repairing a track when an eastbound freight train collided with the unoccupied vehicle. The board launched an investigation into what happened, and it says that it found that when the supervisor noticed the problem, he requested a second permit allowing him to be on the tracks, but he canceled the wrong permission, leaving the track he was working on unprotected. It says the rail company has since implemented safety changes, including enhancing its electronic application for such permits. BC NDP leader David Eby says litigation that was brought against the tobacco industry nearly 2 decades ago may finally come to an end with settlements for people in provinces across Canada, including BC. His comments come after 3 tobacco giants have proposed to pay close to $25 billion to province and territories and over $4 billion to tens of thousands of Quebec smokers and their loved ones. The proposed plan of arrangement, which was developed through mediation, was filed in an Ontario court yesterday after the companies JTI McDonald Corporation, Rothmans, Benson and Hedges, and Imperial Tobacco Canada Limited spent more than 5 years in negotiations with their creditors. Eby says the settlement won't bring people back, but similar to the lawsuit against opioid manufacturers, it has the potential to mitigate harms. That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.